Okay, we're live on Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's not as live. We're here for the Voiceover Livecast, number 8. And we're going to wait until some people get in here to begin. They should start streaming in. Richard Dardis, number 1. All right. How are you? I saw pictures of you at Pivot at Peter's open mic. Hope that was fun. It looked like they had plenty of musicians. Very nice. Let's see what I can do here. Hey, Courtney. How are you? Welcome to the livecast. We're just getting warmed up here. Just wait a couple minutes for people to get in here. Don't have a huge audience, but I think I get a lot more views and stuff when I post it later on. Courtney, I hope it's going well for you. We need to catch up. I'm curious about what you're doing. So what is that? Let's see. Keeps going down from 2 to 1. Oh, there I can see my viewers. Okay. Oh, Courtney left. All right. Hey, my buddy from Poland. All right. I want to take another trip out there. That was a fun trip. Poland and Germany. And John, I guess he's kind of fun. All right. So I wonder if that updates. Well, we'll see. It's a slow start, but that's okay, like I said. Huh. Okay. Well, I'm not going to keep waiting forever. So this is the 8th live cast for the voiceover. And today I'm going to narrate a section from Out of the Ashes, which is book 1. Hey, Brittany. Which is book 1 of a series that I started on. Hi, Lori. How are you? It seems like you've been in a battle with Richard Dardis. He's one of my rowdies, Rick's rowdies, for a little while, and he beat you by several minutes. Oh man, not even close. But I'm glad you're here. So this is going to be from Out of the Ashes, and it's a series that I've started, and it's a romance series. And usually I use my pseudonym, which I'm still not going to make public, probably not for a long while. But this one is kind of religious based, and it's tamer. Although I have started on book 2, and it gets a little steamier. So we'll see. I guess my mom can make her own choice on whether she wants to listen to it or not. But it's not going to be too bad. So yeah, this first book has been released, and I'll post another link to it, and so you can check it out. I know, Lori, you're listening to it right now, I believe, and it's good. It's going to be a good series, and it's 7 or 8 books, so it's going to kind of happen throughout the rest of the year. We'll see what kind of schedule we can get on. I had actually just started on book 2, and then had a couple of voiceover assignments, and then an incredibly busy music weekend this past weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday's open mic just kind of took it out of me. And when that happens, I have not much of a voice. So it's recovering, and I'll get back to that. Should have book 2 done, at least delivered to the author in a couple weeks. Mark, hey, it was good to see you and hang out with you last night at Gatsby's. And the other stuff I'm working on, I'm doing, and they're not really out yet, but there are these snapshots of books that you can find. They're not snapshots, they're called summaries. Hey, Tammy, howdy. And I've started doing them for Findaway Voices. They're the vendor for them. And they're basically anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, usually nonfiction books. And you can kind of, they give you a preview of a book before you buy them. So it's kind of nice, and I've been doing quite a few of them, actually. It's a pretty neat deal. So this series involves the two main characters are John and Catherine. Catherine is a young woman. She's 18, 19 years old. And John is about 30. And he moves into this town and into this apartment complex and meets this young woman and is very interested in her. He's kind of drawn to her right from the beginning. And she's very innocent. She seems very innocent. She's also frail, and it turns out that she may have some medical conditions and perhaps a mysterious past. And book one is kind of just about them getting to know each other, and quite a few things happen. Incidentally, I'm going to go ahead and declare this a national day, because there's like a day for everything, right? Every day we have a national thing. This is No Pants Day. I usually wear pants or shorts, but just got the underwear on today. I know that's too much information, but I just wanted to let you know. So that if you wanted to join in at any point during the day, no matter where you are, you can take off those trousers or whatever and just be free. Just be yourself. I see some thumbs up. That's good. I mean, I got to go out of the house at some point today, so I guess I'll put them on. We'll see. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. We'll try to do a couple chapters here. And this is maybe a third the way through the book. Chapter 12. Saturday, October 9th, 1976. John was startled awake. He rolled over and peeked at the clock. 3 a.m. Someone was crying, but the windows weren't open. Like clockwork, he heard the same pitiful, sometimes alarming cries almost every night for weeks now. In the beginning, he thought it was one of Maggie's girls, but now he wasn't sure. The keening grew softer, muffled. John tried to drown the sound out with his pillow, but his mind was alert and wouldn't let him go back to sleep. Laying there in the dark, he could pick out a new sound. It was a small, rhythmic thump, thump. Heaving a deep sigh, he flopped over to his side, which made his headboard bounce against his bedroom wall. Suddenly, it was blissfully, eerily quiet. He was drifting back to sleep when his mind abruptly slid all the pieces of the puzzle together. Catherine. Who else could it be? John staggered through his house as he pulled on a pair of jeans. Outside, he flew down the hall to her apartment. He knocked softly, just in case Catherine was sleeping. John waited a minute, then two. He was about to go home when the door peeked open. "Who is it?" she asked timidly. "It's John. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just a bad dream," she responded softly. "Sorry to wake you." "Do you want some company for a while?" he asked, concerned by the hitch in Catherine's breathing. "No, go back to sleep. I'll see you in the morning." "Okay. Night," he said tenderly. "Good night, John." Catherine was sitting outside, under the morning sun, when John stepped out of his apartment. The nightgown she was working on had taken shape since yesterday morning. "Looks good," he commented quietly, sitting down next to her. "Want some coffee?" "No, thanks," she answered with a wan smile in his direction. "You're up early this morning." "You too," he said, pointing to the nightgown. "How long have you been out here?" "A while," Catherine replied, looking up at the sun. "I'll be going to the supermarket soon. Do you need anything?" "No, but I'll drive you down there when you're ready." "You don't need to do that, John. I enjoy the exercise." "Did you forget something yesterday?" he asked, taking a sip from his cup. "From the grocery store. Did you forget something?" "Oh, no," she said, shaking her head in the negative. "But Agnes needs some toilet paper and shampoo, and Mr. Lopez would like some chocolate donuts. I still need to talk with Oma and Opa." "Who?" John asked. "The Klinkners. They live next door to Maggie." "Oh, I know who the Klinkners are, he said absently. Guess I've never heard their first names, though. Catherine chuckled. Oma and Opa are titles, not names. They mean grandmother and grandfather. She held up the nightgown and began inspecting it. For Mandy? He questioned, gesturing to the nightgown with playful white bunnies on the light blue background. There were ruffles around the wristbands and at the hem. A fancy white ruffle stretched across the chest. Catherine nodded and began turning the garment inside out. So will Cassie's nightgown have foxes on it? John asked with a lopsided grin. Unfortunately, the sly little fox will have to make do with duckies on her nightgown, Catherine replied with a wry smirk. When he noticed Catherine start stitching along the seam inside the nightgown, he mumbled, What are you doing? She said, glancing at him. John pointed to the nightgown. I thought you were done. Not yet. I still need to finish the seam, she said, pointing to the raw edges of the fabric. At John's confused look, she explained. I'll do an overcast stitch along the edge to finish the seam. It keeps things from unraveling. John finished his coffee while they sat quietly. He observed her carefully stitch her way down the seam, looping the thread around the needle before she pulled each stitch through the fabric. The process seemed to take much longer than the stitches she used to join the pieces together. Every so often, Catherine would stop and look off into the distance thoughtfully. When he noticed a tear rolling down her cheek, he put his arm around her and pulled her close to his side. What's wrong? He asked, pressing his lips to Catherine's temple. She pointed at the edge of the fabric. I guess that's what God is doing with me. Finishing my seams. So you don't unravel? John questioned quietly. Catherine nodded, laying her head back on his arm with a melancholy sigh. John was sitting on the top step a couple of hours later, waiting for her to wake up, when he heard the screen door open. You're sitting in my spot, she said in a cheeky tone. He smiled and gestured to the area next to him. This spot's open. Nope, I need a shower. Be back in a bit. Looking at his hands, John remembered what they'd been doing in his dreams last night, caressing her arms, her shoulders, her breast. But the dream hadn't been erotic. His hands had been sculpting her, adding supple muscle and firm tissue to every area he caressed. He chuckled to himself when he remembered the particular attention he had paid to a specific area of her torso. Apparently the sculpting tool didn't have an erase feature, and her shape began to resemble that of a particular female country star. No sense in adding more than my hands can hold, he thought with a smirk. When Catherine dropped down beside him a few minutes later, he couldn't help but sneak a peek at the V of her sweatshirt. He thought to himself in appreciation. Not quite as much sculpting to do there as I thought. Hey, she grumbled when she noticed his glance was lingering. Knock it off. She punched him in the arm for good measure and tightly crossed her arms over her chest. Sweetheart, I might be on my best behavior, he teased, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to take a peek every now and then. You're incorrigible, she muttered tightly. Nope, just 100% male, he jested. Grabbing her hand, he pulled her up. Come on, let's get out of here. Wait, she responded, pulling back. I have to do something with this mess of hair, and I still need to get the groceries. I like your hair down, he observed, pushing the silky strands aside and bending down to nuzzle her neck. You should wear it that way more often. 4 little eyes are watching you. Huh? He questioned. Catherine pointed to the bottom of the steps where Mandy and Cassie were whispering and pointing. Hey, girls, he called in greeting. Hi, Johnny. What you doing? Cassie asked, barreling up the staircase. Just smelling Catherine's shampoo. What are you and Mandy doing? Nothing, I promise, the toddler said with a solemn air. Can I smell your hair too? She asked Catherine. Sure can, sweetie, Catherine replied, sitting down and drawing the little girl into her lap. The girls fiddled with Catherine's hair until Maggie called them to lunch. When they had gone, John twined a long strand around his finger and pulled her close. He looked into her eyes for a few dizzying seconds, then he kissed her forehead and set her free. When she got up a few moments later and walked into her apartment without speaking, John's heart skipped a beat. Was it an invitation? He found her in the bathroom doorway, brushing her hair. "Come here," he coaxed huskily. When she sent him a questioning look, he gestured her forward with the crook of his finger. Mister. You've got an evil glint in your eye," she commented, shaking her brush at him. "You stay right where you are." John considered her carefully. She was guileless and clueless about his predicament. He inhaled deeply and exhaled on a long, drawn-out sigh. Mustering his sense of humor, John gave her his most charming smile and wandered into the living room to wait. Sitting down carefully, John made a subtle adjustment to the tightness behind his zipper and commenced thinking of icebergs, frosty winter days, and anything else that might cool his libido. After a few minutes, she poked her head around the doorframe and spotted him sitting in the rocker. "Might as well catch a cat nap. This is going to take a while," she muttered. "Why? What's the problem?" he asked. "I normally braid it when it's wet. It's a lot more manageable that way. Now it's like trying to lasso a wild and woolly hurricane." "Want help?" he asked. "Are you going to help braid my hair?" she questioned incredulously. "Sure. I helped my sisters all the time when they were too little to do it for themselves." "Come on," he said, gesturing to the floor near his feet. "Sit here, and we'll get it taken care of." She plopped down on the floor between his feet, and with her back to him. "Guess it doesn't hurt to try," she pronounced, handing him the brush. "Have a little faith," he quipped. Catherine relaxed as he ran the brush through her hair. "How many sisters do you have?" "3. Sharon, Sandy, and Susie," he replied. "Any brothers?" "None. How about you?" John questioned as he gently worked the snarls from the satiny lengths. "Just sisters, Dawn and Heather." When he was finished, Catherine jumped up to look in the mirror. "Not bad, Mr. Brandt," she called from the bathroom. "Thank you." "You're welcome. Now, can we go?" "Sorry, but I still need to pick up the groceries." "Done." "What?" she asked in confusion. "I went while you were sleeping. Everyone has what they requested, and we're off to the farmer's market to get the rest." "We are?" "Yep. Now go on. Get a move on, gorgeous. Opa wants freshly picked apples." The smog had cleared, and the Saturday afternoon sky was clear and bright when they arrived at the farmer's market. Acres of cars were parked in an open field, but when they walked over a small rise, Catherine was startled by the sea of makeshift tents, booths, and truck beds piled high with fruits and vegetables. As they walked through the long aisles of vendors, she would stop often to look over the fresh produce and specialty products displayed. After wandering up and down a couple of rows, Catherine shook her head sadly. "Such abundance," she lamented in an undertone. John was confused by her reaction. When was abundance a bad thing? This outing wasn't turned out as he had planned. He took her hand and kissed her knuckles. "You want to leave?" "We haven't found Opa's apples yet." Gesturing to the acres of stalls, he asked, "This bothers you, doesn't it?" How could she explain the sadness stealing over her? What happens to all of this when the customers are gone?" she questioned softly. "Well, they pack up and head home, I guess." "But what about all the produce that's left? Where does it go?" Catherine queried, pointing to the piles of food in every stall. "Not sure," he replied, shrugging his shoulders. "Maybe to another farmer's market?" "Or maybe into a garbage can?" Catherine asked, sorrow troubling her features. Pulling her away from the crowds, John found a stretch of grass apart from the commotion and sat her down. Kneeling in front of her, he searched the face that had become so precious to him. She was trying to keep it together, but the trembling lip gave her away. Slipping around to sit next to her, he pulled Catherine to his side. The front of his shirt, where she laid her head, was soon wet with her tears, and all he could do was sit there helplessly. "What is it, baby?" he questioned softly into her hair. After some sniffles, she moaned, "It hurts, John." Instantly alert, he tipped her face back. "Where does it hurt?" he urgently demanded. "Here," she said, laying her hand on her stomach. Catherine stopped him when he tried to jump up. "No, John, I don't mean that it hurts right now. I just mean that hunger," she said with a soft whimper. "Hunger hurts." Suddenly, his lungs felt devoid of all air, and his eyes watered. John pulled her around to sit in his lap. Bending his head to hers, he gently kissed the top of Catherine's head. "You'll never be hungry again. I promise," he consoled, embracing her tightly. With a shivering sigh, she whispered, "But what about everyone else?" Then she cried softly into his shoulder until there were no more tears left. Closing the tailgate on the bountiful stock of fresh fruits, nuts, and vegetables Catherine had chosen, gave John a sense of accomplishment. The evidence of her earlier anguish was gone. It had been replaced by a fiery light of determination. At every booth, she had asked the vendors what happened to the leftover produce. Their answers had varied, but Catherine's response had always been the same. "Would you consider donating what's left to a soup kitchen or food pantry?" Some had agreed it was a good idea, and some had waved her away in irritation. "Ready, beautiful?" he called. "Don't forget Opa's apples," she reminded, pointing behind John to an entire bushel basket on the bright red treat. "What is an old man going to do with a whole bushel of apples?" he asked, askance. "If you let me borrow your pots and pans while you're at work tomorrow, I can make some applesauce with whatever's left," she replied with a familiar twinkle in her eyes. "There might even be an apple pie in it for you." "Deal," he proclaimed heartily, helping her into the truck. Once they were on the road, John finally worked up the nerve to ask the question that had been bothering him. "Sweetheart." "What happened?" he questioned tenderly. Catherine knew exactly what he was referring to. The years of lack, followed by the months and months of hunger that had left her so diminished in form and spirit. A deep sigh rumbled from her. "You will never know the depths of your own humanity," she said thickly through her tears, "until you face a hungry child over the last cup of rice broth." John reached out and took her hand in his. After Catherine regained her composure, she continued, "I was stationed in Ethiopia right after the Communist Party came to power there. The Derg made sweeping land reforms, and it was catastrophic to food production." "Derg?" he questioned, confused. "The name of the ruling party." "Oh, so what happened?" John pushed. "This happened," she stated tensely, gesturing to her shrunken frame. "Sweetheart," he said cajolingly. "Stop!" she demanded. "Hey, there's no—" "Stop! Someone needs our help back there!" she exclaimed. "What?" he questioned sharply. "Stop the car!" she shouted. "Someone is in trouble back there!" John quickly pulled off the freeway. Catherine jumped out the door and dashed back down the shoulder of the road before the truck had even stopped moving. That's the end of that chapter. Oh, Jesus. Let's see what we got here. All right. Good to see you all. That was just one chapter. All right. So yeah, that's just one chapter, and it gets kind of exciting after that for a little bit, and and things happen. So like I said, this is just book 1 of a 7-8 book series. And I'm getting started on book 2 now. So let me know if you have any questions, any real questions, not John questions. Those aren't good ones. I did stop doing the news that I was doing, the international stuff for Turkey. That was just keeping me way too busy and locked down for a 3-hour stretch, 6 days a week. So, yeah, Mark, that's for sure. So I removed that from my schedule, and it's been quite nice. I have much more time for better things. It was fun, though. And yeah, I'm not going to do a whole nother chapter. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do like a little section. Like a little section. Chapter 13. Catherine reached the man as he fell forward onto the hood of his station wagon. Awkwardly guiding the unconscious fellow to the ground took all of her strength. When he was stretched out on his back, she reached for the pulse point at the base of his neck. His pulse had slowed to a dangerous point. She quickly loosened his tie, pulled the buttons open on his dress shirt, and placed her ear on the man's chest over his heart. Not good, she thought, waving frantically for John to hurry. As John backed carefully down the shoulder, horns blared from the oncoming traffic. When he was within 20 feet of Catherine and the unconscious man, he stopped. Keying the mic on the CB radio, he spun the dial to channel 9 and put out a Mayday call. "How far to the hospital?" she called when John jumped out of the passenger side door. 10 minutes, maybe more, he said, gesturing to the traffic. "I put out a call for assistance." "Let's get him into the truck," Catherine urged. "No, we should wait for the ambulance," John insisted. "Look around, John. How long is an ambulance going to take to get here in this traffic?" John considered the situation. It wasn't safe on the side of the road. 2 cars had already gotten too close for his comfort. "All right, let's go," he decided, struggling to lift the man over his shoulder. "You drive." "I don't know how to drive, John. I'll have to ride with him." Crawling into the back seat first, Catherine helped John guide the man in. "His pulse is going into overdrive. We need to get to the hospital fast." Come on," John yelled at the traffic flying past when they wouldn't let him merge. After 2 frustrating minutes of trying to break in the traffic, Catherine reached forward and grabbed the mic on the CB radio. "Give me channel 19. "What are you doing? Truckers can't help this guy." Breaker 19, she called. When the chatter on the line settled, she continued rapid fire. 1033, back 'em up, boys, on Big Road 405, yardstick 37. I need a brake check. 10-4? "We copy, little mama. Backing 'em up right now." Keying the mic again, Catherine called. "If there are any full-grown bears on the air, I need a 1033 escort. We're stuck in the granny lane waiting for a meat wagon. 10-4? John watched as brake lights started popping out in front of him. "Ride the shoulder," Catherine commanded. "Oh, no." "What?" John yelled over his shoulder while trying to keep his eyes on the road. He heard the precordial thump and knew what was happening. "I'm starting CPR. Keep going." "Come back, little mama. What's your 1020? John called back with their location. "Put the hammer down. Tell your better half we got the bumper stickers closed in." What did he say?" John shouted at the radio. "Speed up. They got traffic stopped ahead," Catherine replied through her exertions. When John broke free of the shoulder, he saw a stretch of open road in front of him. The CB crackled again. "You got 2 Evel Knievels coming up on your back door and a clean shot. 10-4? John saw the flashing lights of 2 motorcycle cops in his rearview mirror. When they pulled abreast of the truck, he rolled his window down. "Heart attack," he yelled. The 2 highway patrolmen took up a lead position in front of them, sirens blaring. "Godspeed, little mama," squawked the radio as they rocketed away. All right, that does it. I'm going to wrap this up. All right, so thanks for checking in, as always. Next Thursday, we'll be doing the music live cast. Yes, we will. So I'll post a link to this book again and to the trailer that I did for it and an interesting interview that the author did with me. I'll give you those links so you can check them out. And we'll see you next time. Keep your pants on.